All right. Welcome back, listener, viewer. What is good? What is good? It's your boy Mutsa Chris Don in the cut. Back again with my two brothers, Nkosi and Samson. What's goody, Mr. Samson? What's goody, Mr. Nkosi? All right, so listener, in this particular episode, we will be talking about Manchester United's new coach, Mr. Ruben Amorim. That's the man. That's the man. That's the man. That's the man. In case you did not know, so we'll be talking about that. Talking about if we believe he's the right man for the job. Talking about can he handle the pressure. Talking about his record there in Portugal, where he came from. I heard a certain birdie tell me that the boy was an intern for Jose Mourinho at some point at the Manchester United tenure. So very interesting stuff. Like I'm very curious to see how he is. And listener, in case you have no idea what Mr. Amorim looks like or we're talking about, that's your boy, Mr. Amorim, right there. That's the man we'll be talking about today. So yeah, I'm gonna throw it to my brother Samson here to kind of get us started on what his feelings are about this new appointment as a coach. Is he the right guy for the job, Samson? Over to you, man.
Um, is he the right guy? I think he's the best guy currently. Best guy United could go out and get. If not him, I would have probably said Tuchel. But I think he's a pretty good option. He's really sought after right now. He's one of the top young coaches in Europe. He's won two league titles with Sporting. He also, before Sporting, he was actually at, I think, Braga, and he did very well there as well. So yeah, I think it's a pretty good appointment, and I think United fans have reason to be excited because, hey man, that Bob brother that was there before, bro. Like honestly, anything would have been better than him. But to get a manager who has so much upside, um, and is has this level of reputation in the game, and teams around Europe are looking at him thinking, yeah, he's going to be the next big guy. That's that's pretty good. Like for United, I think they're on the right path here. So yeah, how about you, Mongor? What do you think of the new man?
Ruben Amorim is a very interesting coach. I did mention that the Manchester United board are going to act swiftly, and Sir Jim, I think he listens to the Forest Brothers podcast because they did act swiftly. They did bring in a new manager. I think with them, it's going to be interesting in that now with a lot of clubs, we're seeing this new club structure where people are coming in as head coaches rather than managers, and you now have to fit into the ethos or the structure at the club. So, for example, Ruben Amorim is coming in as a head coach rather than a manager. It's the same thing with Honest Law, same thing with Enzo Maresca. They won't have as much say in like transfers. They'll have like some sort of say, but not as strong as they would have been previously when if they were a manager. So he's going to fit into that structure. I think he reports up to Dan Ashworth, who then there's also the technical director Wilcox and the director of recruitment, Christopher Vival. So it's going to be a very interesting setup where I think he's going to have a say in like a lot of like the players that he bring. Not necessarily like all the players, but like some sort of like position. I think position wise, he's going to tell them, okay, I need a player in this position. Like I know left wing back is going to be big for him, so like he's going to probably say, I need a new left wing back, maybe a striker, maybe a right winger, right forward, because like he's going to play a different style of play. He's going to be bringing in a back three, maybe a 3-4-3, 3-5-2, or a variation of those two. So with him, I'd say he's pretty good. I think one thing to mention about Ruben Amorim, or just Sporting in general, is he's the kind of manager that his style of play is very unique, so it's going to take time for him to start to implement his game because a back three at United, number one. Number two, it's not your typical back three. So it's going to take a bit of time for him to come in and implement that and change the players' thinking from the typical back four. He's going to have to slot in some players and in new positions. I think the two, so just to give the listener some context, the players that are at Manchester United right now that have played under him, they know him, Victor Lindelof and Manuel Ugarte, especially Ugarte. They know him very well, so they do know his style of play. I think Bruno was at Sporting, but he left prior to Amorim joining. So all in all, I think Manchester United have got a good appointment. It's just going to be interesting to see that now with Amran going to United, his former sporting director Viana going to City. It's going to be kind of different because, interestingly enough, for listener, I'd say this is one guy that was like linked with Man City. I think he did speak to Liverpool this past summer about potentially taking over there. So for Manchester United to actually get him is a good thing. It's just going to be interesting how he copes with the pressure. He's going to be United's youngest manager, I believe, at 39 years old. So you can imagine how that's going to be with all these players. But yeah, all in all, I think Ruben Amorim is going to be a good appointment, and it's interesting to see that there's just so much. A week, 7 days in football can change quite a lot. I mean, 7 days. Because for 7 days ago we are talking about a certain Seven Hug. Today we're talking about a new manager. The team knows how to play soccer properly. So yeah, it's very It's been a very interesting period there at Manchester United. I don't know, Mutsa, if you want to add a bit more there.
No, that's very interesting. And I actually especially want to touch on the fact that, as you said, Ruben will be the youngest Manchester United coach in probably its history. So at 39 years old. And I'm also curious about what you boys believe for people who might not know him as well, because not a lot of people, I assume, watch the Portuguese league, right? So I'm kind of more curious as to what is his vibe as a manager? Like, what's his style? Because Manchester United has had a different range of coach styles. You know, if we're looking at Van Gaal, if we're looking at Ole, if we're looking at Mourinho, if we're looking at Ten Hag, you know, these are very different types of managers. Even looking at Moyes, looking at Fergie, you know, Amorim, is he gonna be more like, I don't know. I'm just kind of curious what his vibe will be, and like if he's gonna bring a whole set of like maybe I don't know if he's more dynamic, if he's gonna be more animated on the touchline, if he's gonna be like more buddy buddy with the players, like hand over the shoulder kind of guy. Like maybe you guys can speak to it, but I'm very curious as to what Man United fans can expect in terms of like his coaching style. What kind of coach is he? You know, what are they gonna expect from the brother? So maybe Samson, you have an idea of that. Like what is it that is his style?
I think he's following the trend of these recently retired players who are very who really think a lot about the game. You know, they really think about tactics. They think about opposing teams. They study teams. I think he's one of those players, like a proper student of the game. Um, so I expect him to be. I mean, Arsenal did play Sporting, and Arteta did come up against him. I think 2 years ago, and in those games, he was very animated. In the press conferences, he was animated. He was talking a lot. So I expect to see that energy from him on the touchline. Also, I will bring up that there is a certain just a brief thing about his history. He stopped playing, I think, at the age of 30 or 31 because he felt he had more to give as a manager. And then instantly, this is actually his second time at Manchester United. He was there under Mourinho as an intern. And he interned there because he wanted to like get a feel for the game, number one, and number two, he didn't have any coaching badges. So after interning and realizing he was ready, he went to the third tier of Portuguese football to a team I believe called Casa Pia, and he won the league with them. And once he got to the second division, he was told he can't coach because he doesn't have any badges. And he was threatened with a fine or he had to resign. So he resigned. Then he went to Braga, and he had a very weird situation where he was the assistant coach, but he was really the coach because all these teams in Portugal want him. Like they can tell, yo, this is the best manager around. We need him in our team, but no one can actually hire him as a head coach because he doesn't have his badges. So for a really long time, he's just being an assistant. He's a regular coach, but he's actually running teams So his dad Braga. Then Sporting actually paid 10 million to get him to Sporting. Then he wins them two league titles. So from that story, I think the one of the listeners should take was that this is a very determined guy. You talk about guys who got it out of the mud, guys who struggled to get where they are, guys who fought, like, yeah, and he's going to bring that, I think, to United. So I expect him to be hard on the players. I expect him to be demanding of, the ownership and making signings and all that. I'm expecting a very animated character. So yeah,
Wait, Sam, well, does he have his badges then, or no? Did he get them at the end, or he
I,
still doesn't have his badges?
it would be funny if he still didn't, right? But yeah, I think he ended up getting them eventually. So yeah, now he's all good. He's all set up.
Is all set up? Okay, because that's gonna be the funniest thing if the Premier League finds out from this podcast that the boy still does not have his badges, and they've already signed him. So
Uh,
that is crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, that's a very interesting history from the boy. I was gonna say that he is signed. His contract runs until June 2027, and he's got the option of an additional year once all his obligations have been met. So basically, a 3-year contract. So I kind of want to hear from you boys, like, how much time does, especially for a team like Man United, who has gone through a lot of turmoil over the years, and they clearly need a lot of work. 3 years to me sounds quite light. I don't know if that's enough time for any manager to like really settle in. We talked about in the previous episode, we talked about Jurgen Klopp, right? And how long it took him in Liverpool to get them to where they are. If we look at Arteta, it took him some time as well to even get Arsenal to a place where, like, okay, we're now challenging for the title. So my question to you, Mangoro, is 3 years with an additional maybe 1 year, is that enough time to really give someone the confidence, or does it give someone too much pressure? He's a young coach. Like, how do you think it plays out? And should he have gotten a longer contract? But then again, you run the risk of, if he's not performing and you sign him until, let's say, 2030, buying him out is going to cost a lot of money. But then on the other side of it, someone could say, okay, this is a young coach who can actually grow with the team. This is a young coach who can actually like learn a lot and actually develop the team to a place where, like, if we give him 5 years in Man United, we might be terrible for the first four, but he's gonna get it right at some point because he's determined enough to do it. So it could be one of those situations. Anyway, I'm just kind of curious, like, how much time you think that he actually would need to be successful in Man United, Mangoro.
I'd say it definitely needs time because I remember when Sir Jim stepped into the controlling stake at the club this year, he did mention that the club will need four transfer windows to actually get back to where they need to be. And the summer was the first transfer window. So in 3 years' time, that's going to be the three transfer windows you were talking about. So I believe that that's sufficient enough to see the general progress that he could make. Because one thing that people have, I think, maybe just need to be reminded of is back in 20 whatever year it was, when Manchester United had Ralph Rangnick as the interim manager. He mentioned that at that time that Manchester United, for them to get back challenging to where they want to be, this club needs open heart surgery, and people thought he was joking. And then Turnout came in and he papered over the cracks, and now we see the issues pop up again. So I think Manchester United fans shouldn't expect him to come, even if comes in, gets that new manager bounce, they win a few games. They shouldn't expect him to be the second coming of like Thomas Tuchel when he went to Chelsea. Like, this needs time. He needs to like build because one, it's a unique style of play. It's coming from a different league. I don't know, but I can't speak on his English where it is now because like that's like going to be a huge part for his managerial style. But as to who he is as a manager, I'd say he's, as Samson said, he's animated from all the images and a lot of the Portuguese stills I've seen of him. He looks maybe in the Portuguese league, it's easy, so he looks very calm. But he's a numbers guy. I've been reading about him, and lots of people talk about he's very like analytical. He looks at a lot of data, so he'll be using a lot of data to drive decisions. But I think more credit needs to go to Dan Ashworth at United. I think the success of this appointment is going to rest on his shoulders. And we've seen the great work that Dan Ashworth has done at England, Brighton, and Newcastle. Now it's going to be at Manchester United. So I think this is like the one signing we're going to judge Ineos on in terms of like a manager. And I think he's going to fit into the mold and then take the club forward. The main thing is, and I just plead with all United fans, is just patience. He will need patience. He's not a miracle worker. This is not Jesus. Like, if they expect him to come in tomorrow and make miracles, like we're going to be back here next year talking about him getting sacked. So with the 3 years, I would also mention that when you give a manager 3 years, you kind of like protect yourself, as you mentioned, Mutta, as the club, so that if after 2 years, or yeah, after 2 years, or at the end of the 3 years, if he's performed well, you can then look at renegotiating terms. And if he hasn't, he walks away. You don't lose anything, but he's built some structure at the club, so that if the next manager comes in, if the next manager comes in, he just picks up there, and you don't have to pay much like that to pay out Ten Hag. I think that was like one experience I don't want to have again. The other thing I do want to mention is when you give a manager 5 years, you sort of like tie down yourself to that manager, and you're like, okay, we're going to stay with this guy for the next 5 years. And I think they've been burnt quite a lot in the last couple of years. So I think they wanted to go down a different route where they kind of played safe with the manager. And then with when you look at like the club as a whole, there's just a lot of things happening. So they just need some sort of like I'd say some sort of like something to settle them down with like disappointment, because it's a lot. Manchester United have been through a lot. So bringing in, I think, Amorim is going to like calm a lot of nerves and simplify a lot of things. Number one, from a structure perspective, and also from just where the club goes forward. Because honestly, there's nothing else they can do at this point.
No, no, that's fair. That's fair. So actually, I feel like it would be a good thing to kind of look at potentially what positions he like, what formation he puts forward, and like who he plays where. So yeah, so next segment here, let's kind of just have a conversation about where he ends up playing. So I'm gonna just show a graphic here that kind of indicates, what he ends up playing as. So right now, as you can see, this is what the potential lineup could be under Ruben Amorim. So of course, we'll have your Onana, and then Euro when he is fit, he'll be playing, with Delict and Martinez as the back three. Then we have Mazraoui, Ugarte, Maino, Dallo, and then, Fernandes, Rashford, and Hojan. So I kind of just want to get your boys' opinion on, does this look like a strong startup? Because in this lineup, I don't see Garnacho, for example. It doesn't look like he's in this. We don't see Xerxes. He's one of the new signings. We don't see him here. So yeah, I'm kind of curious what you boys think about this formation, and like, is this a strong team to actually take them, let's say, top six at the end of the season? So I can start with Samson. Like, what are your thoughts on this potential? What this potential lineup could look like?
So I think with Amorim, all the indications suggest he's going to play a back three, and I think that's probably, that's going to be his biggest challenge, because United right now, I think Euro's out until December. Delict has looked suspect. I was watching the United game today, and I was watching Delict defend, and he kind of reminds me of Phil Jones, in the sense that when he's trying to defend, he makes it look very hard. He makes it look like it's the hardest job in the world, like you know, he's giving it his all every single time. And some people make it look easy, so, and some people look like Phil Jones. So I can't. I still don't know if that's a bad thing or not, but I don't think it fills people with a lot of confidence. People that you're defending next to. Um, and I bring that up because Amorim has been blessed with some really good defensive talent at Sporting. Uh, the star man in the middle for them was Usman Diomande, who's, widely considered as one of the top upcoming center back prospects in the world. So to go from that to this, and again, that's in a lower league where, his team was, the best, like in terms of the talent on his team, those were the best of the best in that league. Is Delict the best of the best in the Prem? Is Euro? Is Martinez? No, like I'd say United is probably um, top six defense in the league, top seven maybe. Like it's not really it's not too good, is it? So yeah, I'd say it's going to need some work. And also up top, you mentioned Garnacho. I think yeah, Garnacho's missing, but I saw Garnacho today. I saw Rashford today. Honestly, those brothers should be working hard in training because I don't think like they were playing today like they didn't realize that one of them is going to the bench because United played a 4-2-3-1, so they had four forwards. One of those guys is going to be holding bench, so something has to give here because I think the defense is the defense, the wing backs are the wing backs. He is going to play two defensive midfielders. Bruno's not going to get in there because he can't defend. So it's probably going to be Uarte and Mino, or Uarte and Casemiro. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. Yeah, what are your thoughts, Nkosi?
I'd say, well, looking at this team, there's been a lot of talk. Let me just paint maybe a positive aspect for Manchester United. Ruben Amorim has won 10 games in only 10 games this season in the Portuguese league. Maybe he'll come and replicate that in the Premier League. We'll soon find out. But when I look at this team, I see a few things that maybe won't be possible for just the lineup to be out there. I think there's going to be aspects, especially with wing backs. So the wing backs in a back three system are probably the most critical people because they act as auxiliary attackers as well as some sort of defenders. Because we've seen United defenders can't defend 1v1 at the back in a back four. So like the two you can't trust the two center backs. So adding another center back is going to help them. And then with the wing back, I think the balance here, looking at this team, Mazraoui and Dallo are both right-footed, so I think they'll both compete for the one position on the right. I think on the left, they're going to look at a new option. I think there was a link with Ignacio or this other guy from Sporting. His name is Arajo. Plays on the I think on the left hand side, so there could be something there. I know that that's going to be one area that they target. I think the midfield is going to be this midfield that we see his boy Ogate is going to be there picking up yellow cards week after week, and then the front three it's going to be, I'd say, a bit different. I would say I don't see Rashford playing under this manager. I'm not a center forward because this is going to play. They're not going to play traditional wingers. They're going to play because that's the position the wing backs are going to occupy. As I'd see them playing two number 10s. So I would see probably Mason Mount. Maybe I think Mason Mount is one player that he's identified because he's played in this role previously at Chelsea. So playing in that two number 10s with Bruno and him, I think that could be the way forward. I don't see Rashford coming inside. Rashford wants to hug the touchline or running behind, and this new system, I don't know, doesn't accommodate to that. And then the center forward, I think there's a question mark on Hoyland and Xerxes. Xerxes, I saw him today. He couldn't run to save his life. So I think there should be something there. There is a striker at Sporting, Victor Gyökeres. Has been linked with Arsenal, Chelsea, you name them. Big signing, big striker for Sporting, scoring goals like fun. Used to actually play at Coventry City, interestingly enough. So I think there could be something there where they make a transfer. But the rest of the team, I think, would fall into this realm. But there are some changes that he's going to make. I don't see the wing backs, two right-footed wing backs on either side because it just affects the balance of the team. So I think maybe a left-footed player might come in that regard, or we see something outrageous. But we never know. We never know with these managers.
as I was gonna say, you bring up an interesting point. January is coming up soon, and the transfer window opens up again. Do you guys foresee a future in which a lot of players from Sporting are actually nitpicked by the boy Amorim? Is he gonna try to bring over some of his players, like as we saw with Ben Ten Hag, where he brought his Ajax kids? Is that something that we could potentially see for Man United, where like we just see an influx of like two or three Sporting players pull up, like that striker you just said, like the striker, and then the left wing back or the right wing back, and then maybe someone in the middle there. Like, is that something you could potentially foresee happening in January?
I will say it's possible, but the Sporting players, they cost a lot of money, man. Like Gyökeres right now, he like when he was being linked to teams in the summer, they were quoting figures that Napoli was demanding for Osimhen. They wanted about 100 million. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to do that. With the defenders as well. I mean, I'm not sure about the wing backs, but I know for sure them the centre backs, Inacio, Diomande, very expensive, very very expensive. So who knows? Also, United have spent 17 million to sack Ten Hag and spent another 8 million to hire this man. PSR doesn't play, bro. They're in 14th right now. They're not making, like they have to make it to Europe to have any sort of, you know, positive like finances where they don't have to like sell people or get rid of wages. So already they're they're back like 23, 24 million. Like, how do you spend another 60? I don't see it. Yeah.
I would also add that Ruben Amorim mentioned that uh, he's not going to go for Manchester United players this January. Uh, for sporting players this January, in terms of signings, we don't know about next summer. I think also the other thing is, just to add on to Samson's point about finances and PSR, I think the biggest thing that Manchester United will have to do first is clear out all the players that Ruben Amorim doesn't want. I think that's where it's going to start. You can't keep on adding players before you get rid of players. You need to first clean house before you add new furniture. It's very simple. So I think that's going to be one aspect that they focus on for the rest of the season, ensuring that all the players that he has are the players that he sees a future with that will fit into his style of play. And then the ones that he doesn't want, like I can safely say he won't want Anthony. So that's one person he's going to get rid of. That's one aspect. The other aspect, when I look at just the situation there, I think he's sort of going to fit into a structure. So I don't know if he'll have as much say with signings, because if Dan Ashworth and them truly believe that some of these sporting players do fit the mold and the style of play that they want to go down, I think they could then lean to those. But then I think they'll also be recommending a lot of players that they've seen that would potentially add to this team, because they've been down this road before. They've been burnt before. We're like literally looking at this team. We have at least 4 Ajax players or ex-Ajax players. So they don't want to be stuck with that. And we have Anthony on the outside, another Ajax player. So I think they're going to look at it much more closely and then decide with him in terms of players that he recommends, or he's going to recommend positions. Then they provide players for him, because they don't want to go back to Sporting, sign these Sporting players, and then have another Ajax situation here where they're like, okay, we get rid of you now. We have all these players. And keep in mind, there aren't as many youth academy players anymore at United that can serve as pure profits for PSR reasons. They sold McTominay last year to balance the book, this year to balance the books. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do here, because like it still needs work. They just need to get rid of the players first, and then next summer we can possibly look at him starting to bring in his kind of player and his particular style of play to the club.
No, that's very fair. And I think lastly on this particular lineup and everything, I would say that maybe we're about to see a good resurgence on Bruno Fernandes. It's even Dallo. since they're all going to be Portuguese brothers, so maybe there's going to be more of an understanding where like Amorim sits Bruno down, like, hey, I really want you to step up as a leader of the team, and maybe we're going to see a different Bruno. Maybe it's going to be a new and fresher Bruno that we saw like when he first arrived, and um, all the toxicity that was happening with him and Ten Hag goes. Maybe I'm just being hopeful for my United fans because it was just funny. Today after the game, after the Chelsea game, he was saying, "Sorry, Ten Hag. Like, hey, I feel for you, my G. Like, like we could have done better, man. Like, sad to see you go." And I was like, what are you doing, Bruno? What? I just thought it was hilarious because Bruno was literally an architect of from hell trying to get that brother fired. Like all those red cards he was accumulating in the last few weeks. Oh my god! Like I was just like Bruno. I mean, if I'm Ten Hag and I'm hearing that apology, I probably just switched off the TV. Like I'm like fuck that. I don't know, man. I just it was just so I just found that interesting the fact that Bruno actually apologized to brother Ten Hag for how things went down. But I know that deep down he's excited to have Amorim, and he cannot wait. Today Bruno actually scored a goal. So when was the last time he did that? And even midweek with he scored what a couple of goals against Leicester. So hey man, hey, I don't know. I mean, finally, what do you guys think about this? Like, do you foresee Bruno now getting back to his old self, or is this just going to be a new manager bounce thing, and by March he's just back to his rat ways? I'll ask the boy Sangi like what you think about Bruno right now.
Back to his rat ways. I love that. Now, I'd say, whenever a good coach walks into the room, the quality players typically benefit. And Bruno is a quality player. It's just that I know United fans are going to feel this. He has so much quality, but like he does so many things that are like he'll do something and you'll be like, for a guy with your first touch, the way you hit the ball, something. How did you do that? Like I know Mangoro is going to remember this in the Chelsea game when United were chasing the winner. The ball bounced in the box in front of Bruno, and he hit it out of the stadium. Just whoo! I was like, yo, and literally like 5 minutes before that, he had played the nicest, the slickest pass to Xerxes to get in behind. And, Xerxes couldn't make it because he's slow, but perfect pass. And then minutes later, he does that. So it's like, bruh. But I think the good parts of Bruno are going to be highlighted because that's what good coaches do. They take a good player and they take his good attributes and they maximize and they minimize the bad stuff. So I expect Lisandro to not be dominated in the air because he's not going to be playing in a back two. He's going to be playing a back three. He's going to be out wide. So that's going to help him. I expect Bruno to benefit because he's not going to be doing as much defensive work. He's going to have two defensive midfielders behind him. He's just going to be told create. I expect Hoyland to benefit because I believe they're going to be able to create better opportunities for their strikers. So yeah, I think you'll see. Because come on, guys, they're 14th, man. 14th. Two first half goals all season. Haven't scored a goal before the 30th minute. Like, it's not that hard. It's not that hard. Seriously. Mongo, what do you think?
To me, I'd say Bruno is one unique player. You just never know what you're going to get from him, and I think Manchester United fans feel the same way. It's either you're going to get the brilliant Bruno that came in like 2 years ago when he first came into the league, or when he came into Manchester United. We could get that Bruno, or we could get the Bruno that just moans around the field and is throwing his hands all over the place and doing all sorts of things that are unnecessary. That's just the thing about Bruno. I think that's what we're going to see. One thing that I can safely say we're going to see from Bruno in this back three system, you need to get around the field, and that's not his suit. He's over 30 now. I don't see him getting around the field as much as he'll need to because they're going to be stretched. this back three system, they're going to be stretched. They need players that are fit and that are able to cover distance. And I can safely say that Bruno, not unless they sort of position him where he sort of cheats, he doesn't defend as much, but he's the first person on the break, on the counter. That could potentially be a route they go down, because honestly, we've seen that guy, like him and Rashford are probably the worst people to just run at United defensively, especially Rashford. So all in all, I'd say with Bruno, it's going to be interesting. I don't know where they sit with the captaincy. That's also going to be an interesting one to see how that pans out, because we've seen him as captain. We've seen Roy Keane have him for being the captain and not being a leader. I don't know if Ruben Amorim is going to give him the captaincy or give it to someone else. So it'll be interesting to see at United. It's about to be a series. Like what happens in United the next 6-7 months is just going to be interesting to see. It could turn out really great, or it could blow up in their face.
Hey, and we hope for the latter. And I feel like I don't know. I feel like the captaincy stays with Bruno most likely, because he's probably, if Amorim doesn't know how to speak English, he's probably going to speak to Bruno, and then Bruno relays the message to the whole squad. Maybe that's how it goes. So, hey, I mean, I don't know. So I feel like you need to trust him. Like I feel like if he takes away his captaincy and it's like, oh, by the way, Bruno, please tell that guy to do this, Bruno is just gonna sabotage. It's gonna be like, hey, yo, Amorim thinks you suck, bro. That's what he told me. So I don't think he does that. I don't think he gets it removed. So anyway, I think that's good. That's enough on Amorim and Manchester United. All the best to the brother. If you listen to the podcast, Mr. Ruben Amorim, good luck, sir. We hope for the best. It's not an easy job, but we appreciate the fact that Ten Hag is not there anymore and you are here. So to us, hey man, we welcome you with open arms, my brother. And may the hate watch continue. May the hate watch continue. So with that, thank you so much, listener, for hanging out with the Forest Brothers. We appreciate it. Don't forget to share, like, comment, subscribe, watch our previous videos. We're dropping lots of content. So I'll let my brother say goodbye, and we'll close it out. Starting with the boy Mangoro and over to the boy Sanya, and then we're done with the party. So over to you, Mr. Mangoro.
Just one quick piece of advice to Ruben Amorim. He mustn't crumble at the helm. Like we've seen managers wilt there at Old Trafford. I've heard people call it the graveyard of players and managers. Hopefully, it's not his graveyard. So all in all, I hope he does well. We want to see a new face. I'm happy they didn't recycle another manager, Graham Potter. Just saying. So it's going to be interesting to see. But yeah, listen, thanks for tuning into these Forest Brothers podcast. Be sure to do the right thing. Do the right thing, as Mutsa mentioned, like, comment, subscribe, do all that beautiful stuff. Tune into previous episodes, tune into more episodes, turn on that notification bell so that you know when we drop. Monday and Wednesday, Forest Brothers be dropping. Over to you, Samson.
Yeah, dear listener, thank you once again for hanging out with the Forest Brothers podcast. Always a great time. Always a great time hanging out with my two brothers here. And yeah, all the best to Ruben. And to Bruno. I know the man's in his 30s. All I will say is, when Granit Xhaka, his last season, right before he had his last season, he was probably the most hated Arsenal player out there. But this is what good coaches do. Good coaches can take someone who objectively is terrible. Like, we see him play. We see him week in, week out, the mistakes, the problems, and the good coach can hide all that and draft a new story for you. So maybe this is a good chance for you, Bruno, to stop being such a rat and grow and learn and become a better person. It's an opportunity. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, catch you later, dear listener.
Hey man, Bruno, take the opportunity, my brother. Reinvent yourself, as they say. And with that, listener, we appreciate your time, and we will catch you on the next one. Peace.